Welcome to Admissions Live, the weekly web show for college admissions professionals. I'm your host, Ashley Hennigan, and Admissions Live is part of the Higher Ed Live network. We are all about professional development and digital empowerment. We've got Colonel Paul Weber on today's show, and we're talking about Army ROTC recruitment and scholarship programs and the college admissions process. So I want to get right to the show, but before we do that, I have to give a big shout out to those sponsors that make Admissions Live possible. Admissions Live is sponsored by Scavenger, a Google-funded mobile game about going places, doing challenges, and earning points. Using Scavenger for admissions events helps engage prospective students. You can see how Penn State admissions did it. I've got that article with a link right in the archive of this post. Admissions Live is sponsored by Integral. Check out their latest white paper, Class of 2016 Community Analysis, to learn how creating communities for incoming students can improve admissions yield. We've also got a link to that on the archive of this show at higheredlive.com. Admissions Live is sponsored by Zinch.com, the preferred destination by over 3 million students to research schools and scholarships and showcase themselves as more than a test score. Over 1,000 colleges and universities around the world partner with Zinch to attract and enroll best fit students on Zinch.com, the largest college search social network in the world. To learn more about Zinch, email outreach@zinch.com or tweet @socialadmission. And last, but certainly not least, Admissions Live is sponsored by Welcome to College, home of MARV, the mobile automated research vehicle. Last month, MARV joined forces with Smarter Bank to promote the Crush Student Debt Sweepstakes. One lucky winner was awarded $25,000 to crush their student debt. You can check out the latest on Welcome to College's blog. And today I'm welcoming Colonel Paul Weber, Director of Recruiting, Retention, and Incentives Division for the U.S. Army Cadet Command. Colonel Weber is joining us today with 25 years of experience in the Army. He attended Norwich University as an undergraduate and completed a bachelor's degree in mathematics. He also holds a master's in Operation Research and System Engineering from George Mason University. Colonel Weber served in a variety of tactical assignments prior to concentrating on applied mathematics inside the Army. He has served as a professor of military science at the University of New Hampshire, where he was responsible for Army ROTC programs on 12 campuses in southern Maine and all of the state of New Hampshire. Most recently, he's moved into the role of Director of Recruiting, Retention, and Incentives Division of the U.S. Army Cadet Command, and he's here to talk about Army ROTC recruitment and scholarship programs, and he's prepared some really great advice for advising students through the Army ROTC admissions process. So without further ado, I want to welcome Colonel Weber to the show. Hello, Colonel Weber. I'm glad we're finally connected.
Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah, had a few bumps in the road, so this is a rescheduled show. For those of you that are tuning in on the archive, we've got all the resources that we'll be referencing throughout the show right in the body of this post. So, Colonel Weber, I want to start off and turn this over to you. If you could give us a, kind of a broad outline, the broader scope of the Army ROTC program as it stands today.
Sure. Ashley, ROTC is both a job training and a job placement for the Army. We offer courses in about 400 colleges and universities across the nation. And really, ROTC can be broken down into 4 major components. The first component is a classroom component, just like English 101 or physics or journalism. We teach military science 101 all 4 years of an undergraduate degree. Physical fitness is another component. It's a big deal for the Army to be physically fit. We have cadets. We teach cadets how to keep themselves physically fit, and then we just run routine classes and to keep people physically fit. That's about 3 times a week, and it works very well for us. The third component is a labs or local training. Just like science lab, you have a classroom. Like physics, you have a classroom piece, and then you go into the lab and do some sort of experiment. So Just like that, we have military training that is a connection to the classroom, and that's done locally once a week, 2 to 3 hours, and that'll be somewhere local in the college area. And then a fourth component, which is large or major training events. Some of these are mandatory. The mandatory one is between the summer of your junior and senior year. It's called the Leader Development and Assessment course, where we bring all of the cadets from across the nation to Fort Lewis, Washington. The Army pays for all the travel arrangements, and you stay in the Army training, and you conduct Army training, and we assess you on how well you are, and it's relatively competitive. But in addition to that, there's multiple airborne training opportunities, airborne school, air assault school, and we're expanding our cultural understanding, language proficiency events, where we take cadets and we'll go to about 57 countries across the world, places like China, Brazil, Thailand, Pakistan, and we will immerse the cadets in the culture. They'll learn a little bit about the culture, learn a little bit about the language, and then they'll come back.
That's great.
ROTC in a nutshell.
Yeah, so a few questions for you there. You said that you're preparing students for the Army. What kind of roles and what kind of areas within the Army are they joining, and what kind of status do they have when they're leaving their college and entering the Army?
Sure, excellent question, Ashley, and I really kind of probably missed that. Yeah. Upon successful graduation of Army ROTC, you get commissioned a second lieutenant United States Army. You can serve in the active force, so that's a full-time job with benefits, or you can serve in the Guard and Reserve, and that's a part-time soldier, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. And there's some opportunities for some active duty time when you're in the Guard and Reserve. But that's an officer in the United States Army is that a second lieutenant, that first job is your first level leader in the Army, responsible for about 20 to 30 other soldiers, and responsible for anywhere between $1 million worth of equipment to about $10 million worth of equipment, depending upon the specialty that you are.
Yeah.
There are 16 major branches that you could be. Aviation, you could fly helicopters and lead helicopters. You could be armor force, signal officer, military intelligence officer, transportation, logistics. I was a military intelligence officer, so that was my first job, and then I've been in military intelligence for about 10 years and then concentrated on mathematics.
Great. Yeah. So I can't think of a lot of jobs right out of college where you're immediately managing a team of 20 with a budget of that scope. So that really helps me get a handle on what the students are doing. But I want to get a better handle on where these programs are and maybe the scope of the scholarship program versus the different campuses that are available with non-scholarship programs. Can you explain that a little bit? I'm not totally clear on that.
Sure. Let me talk about what is a cadet first. There's two kinds of cadets. There's an enrolled cadet, which has no commitment to the United States Army. You can take ROTC as an enrolled status, just to try us out, just to see if what the Army is what you want in life. A contracted cadet is someone who's committed to the United States Army, and the Army is committed to do all the extra training. And then if the cadet finishes, we'll commission him. So that's it's a contract between the Army and the cadet.
Great.
We have 273 host programs. A host program is a major node where we have full-time cadre assigned there, and a professor of military science.
Okay.
That was my job on my last assignment at the University of New Hampshire. I had about 8 cadre members underneath me and about 200 cadets across 12 campuses. You could join up as an enrolled cadet, as I mentioned, or contracted cadet. And as a contracted cadet, we did have scholarships. Some cadets went through in a non-scholarship as a contracted cadet, but most did have a scholarship.
Okay.
We have 4-year scholarships, 3-year scholarships, and 2-year scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
The preponderance of our scholarships are in the 3-year and 2-year, but we do offer about 1,000 4-year scholarships. These scholarships pay full tuition and fees, and we have programs that run really the gamut of American education. We have ROTC units and organizations and cadets in Harvard, Yale, MIT, Norwich, Virginia Military Institute, the Citadel, Texas A&M, to University of Penn State, Notre Dame, Stanford, UCLA. So we have a lot. We span there's one in every state in the nation. University of Wyoming, University of Hawaii, University of Alaska. We have one in every state in the union. Plus, we have obviously lots more in several different states. So you can sign up as a class. If you receive a scholarship, if you apply through the Army to get a scholarship, you're expected to be contracted, and you will contract before you receive any benefits. And that's a commitment. The Army will pay for your college, or you're committing to commission at the end.
Great. Yeah, that helps a lot. That's a great bridge into the students' college search. And so it sounds like they really have a lot of options open to them in terms of location and level of university where they can attend. So it seems like they have a lot of options that will be a good fit for them. But what is a good fit for Army ROTC?
Good question. We use an acronym, SAL, Scholar Athlete Leader. That's what we're looking for future Army officers. So for under scholarship or scholar, we're looking for smart people, smart kids who are generally B students in high school, B to A high school kids. We're looking for, and we can measure that through SATs, the standardized test, but we also look at GPAs of in their high school curriculum. Athletics, the quickest thing to look at when we're trying to assess kids is whether they're a letter winner in some sort of college or a high school athletic program. But we also we administer the presidential fitness test, which is a test that everyone can take. It can be given by high school gym teachers or high school coaches. And that's sort of a standard, like a standardized test of the SAT. That's a standardized test. Everyone does it. Everyone follows the same kind of criteria. And we look at, a combination under the physical fitness. If we're looking at particularly rugged sports like football, baseball, lacrosse, versus perhaps some of the less competitive, less rigorous like golf. We'll take an assess, but we will also look at if you are into martial arts or you play some sort of sport outside of the high school. We will take a look at that, and that'll go into your criteria for your athletic assessment. And then for leadership, that's the hardest to really measure. But what we're really looking for is some young man or woman who's got some leadership potential, who's attempted to try to be a leader in high school. That's something that we can build upon in the Army. So we're looking for people who've done student office in the high school, team captains, Eagle Scouts are that works out, leaders in their junior ROTC organization. Anything that shows that they've tried to do something as a leader and been responsible for a group of people. We're looking for those kinds of small germination, so we can bring that up and make that out. Obviously, if someone's already got a lot of leadership experience, then we'd love to have that also.
Well, that's really helpful and easy to remember, that SAL acronym, Scholar Athlete Leader. So as students approach us as admissions professionals or school counselors, being able to identify a good fit, I think, helps us to better advise the student. And I know you have some really great tips that you're going to share with us about the application process into the program. So I want to start digging into that, and did a great job of clarifying the kind of different entry points students have. I'm interested in maybe tackling the most complex application that I would imagine would be going after those scholarships. Is that right? Those are probably the most competitive.
Right. It's very good. The 4-year scholarship application is very competitive. So let me kind of break down the timing of it. When is everything open?
Perfect.
So February of your junior year, February of the applicant's junior year, they can start opening up a file. And it closes December of the applicant's senior year. So they have about a year to apply.
And that's a little bit ahead of what other universities, what the college admissions process would look like for a student. Typically, the application process for college would start at the earliest, the end of summer, but usually the beginning of fall, their senior year, and would be wrapping up possibly that same December time frame.
Right.
But you offer this much earlier for the student in their junior year.
Right. Several people are looking at how to afford colleges, and this is part of their financial plan. So they want to clarify. They at least want to get an early start on that.
Yeah, that's great.
We do 3 boards to look at and select people for scholarships. We do a board in the fall. We'll do a board in February, and then we'll do a board in late April, early May. And we'll notify people who have won 30 days after the board is met. If you don't make, if you're not accepted into or offered a scholarship, we'll hold your file for the next board. So the board's cumulative through there. The scholarship process has got 4 parts to it. First of all, there's the online application. Just like everything else, there's the standard administrative, name, contact information, things like that. And then we ask a series of questions to look, to get at that SAL criteria, that scholar athlete leader. There's a cadet background experience form. It's a series of questions about how they behave in certain environments. We use that to look at how they would fit inside the United States Army. Mm-hmm. There's a physical fitness test, the presidential fitness test. It can be administered by any local Army recruiter, any local, any gym teacher in the high school. The most important piece, though, I have to say, is an interview by a professor of military science. We'll identify, once you open up the application, we will identify give you a choice of 5 professors of military science that you'll go, and how to contact them, and you'll contact them. Mm-hmm. They'll be at any universities around your area. Okay. Make an appointment, and then he's going to do a face-to-face interview to see, and just check out and interview the applicant, make sure that they're what we're looking for. Mm-hmm. Highly recommend, and this is let me get back to the recommendations here. Mm-hmm. The last piece of this is that when we board the file, the board is it's selected by 3 officers. So each individual person is looked at by 3 different officers to be selected. So it's a pretty rigorous process. We've been using it for a number of years, and it's designed to get at really the best that we can.
Great.
I got some tips. Yeah. I kind of use the Jay Leno top 10 lists. So I've got top 10 issues and things that we have, and as you're the folks who are watching and advising students, if they could just kind of to use these and pass these on.
Awesome. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. And I'm sure other colleges have this problem too, where the parents are doing the application for the students. We just ask that the students do the application. We will talk to the students. We will try to talk to them as there's issues, and especially when they start filling out their activities, sometimes parents don't get it right, and it becomes very apparent that it's not an actual factual application. So make sure the students are doing it themselves. Social Security numbers, we have a huge database, many schools out there, so everything's tied to the Social Security number. A lot of young students don't know their Social Security number. They need to remember those things like passwords and user IDs. That's all part of our online. Our application is not part of the Common App, so unfortunately, we're just not part of that system. So you're going to have to apply to us separately. Our SAT scores, we need SAT scores or the ACT, and they need those scores when the high school student takes the test. They need to send them to the Army, not just to the college. The universities and colleges don't send those data to us. So I got a couple of numbers here. Our SAT score for Army ROTC is 0454, and the ACT score is 1676. So when the student's applying, he needs to just remember to put down those codes and send them to us. We do take you can take the ACT and SAT several times, and we'll take the best composite score. So if you did in SAT, if you did real good on the English, and the next time you did real well in the math, we'll combine and take the best score, give the advantage to the applicant. When the applicant applies, so I'm now on number 4. Number 4, they need to remember this login information, because this login information, if they don't remember it, they're not going to be able to update their file. That the biggest thing that we have on number 5 is the students will change their mind. You college administrators and admissions officers do a good job of influencing them to come to your schools. So when they fill out their application in the beginning, in maybe September, they're going to change their mind. We will let that happen, and maybe if we are able to move the scholarship around. But we need to know what that applicant wants to go. So if you're advising a young person and they've changed their mind about their list of where they want to go, then they need to tell the Army, because we could be in a position, we do several times, offer scholarships to schools that applicant doesn't want to go to anymore. And I don't have unlimited funds, so sometimes if they all of a sudden want to go to a more expensive school, we're unable to give them that scholarship. So they need to keep their application up to date with their school choices that they want to go to. Number 6, there's 2 statements that you have to write, 2 personal statements. Why do you want to be an officer in the United States Army, and what else should we know about you? Those 2 general statements. Please advise your applicant, your students, and the people you're working with to remember that they're writing this to essentially 45-year-old men and women. So the people who read these statements are commissioned officers who've been serving for 20 years. So they might try to sound funny, or they might try to use slang in their statement, and us old guys won't understand it or won't find it funny. So it's a big deal. We consider what we're doing a big deal. To be an Army officer, we're looking for some very serious kids to do this, and we understand that kids, 18-year-olds, are sometimes they're 18. I've got a couple of 18-year-olds at home, but they just need to have somebody review that statement with an eye towards, hey, does this come across professional? So I'm on number 8, the interview. This is again a serious interview, an interview between the applicant, young high school man or woman, and a professor of military science who's probably about 40 years old, who served in the Army 20 years. And we're looking to really pick the kids who are replacing us as we are coming out of our career. We're looking for someone who's going to follow in our footsteps. So we're looking for, and there's a lot of money at stake, upwards of $100,000. So it's a big deal. Be professional, be candid. We're looking for someone who's committed to our process, to what we're doing, and who shows those attributes: scholar, athlete, leader. So, that interview is a big deal. All right, and then the last one is the most kind of complicated one. We have 273 host programs. Those host programs have full-time cadre, and we teach at those schools. So there's lots of other cadets there. When you're advising your people, prospective students, prospects, they should contact the ROTC detachment that they're going to go to. Having done this, I've been a professor of military science. A lot of kids win a scholarship or go to a school that there are not many cadets at, and then they get very, they're kind of lonely about it. They don't have any peers to coordinate with, to work on their military stuff. A lot of them have to commute and travel to go to training, and that becomes an additional burden on them. So the student needs to really weigh the type of college and then the type of military environment that he or she's going to be at. The military environment being the number of cadets, where the training is. With the Army, if the Army's paying the scholarship, the expectation is 100% compliance with all the training and all the classrooms. So no missing classes, no missing training, and so the student needs to just really understand what he's getting into. We highly recommend that when he does a college visit, I'm sure you all recommend that the students come visit your campuses. If they're interested in ROTC, they visit the ROTC detachment that supports that campus. They can do the physical fitness test there. They can do the interview there. It's not mandatory, but they can do it there. And that really establishes a rapport between the applicant and the ROTC detachment. So those are my tips. There are 10 of them. I'm sure I went out of order, but there are 10 of them. And if there's any questions out there, we'd be love to talk about it.
Yeah, we've got one question, and it's about after a student has been offered a scholarship and what the timeline looks like for a student at that point. So if maybe they're part of the first board and they have found out that they have been offered a scholarship, do they know what schools that can be applied to? And what if they haven't heard back from those schools? What does that timeline look like?
Excellent. So part of the application process is they select schools that they intend to apply to or they want to go to. Mm-hmm. So when we select Ashley, you've won a scholarship, you'll get a letter that says, congratulations, Ashley, you've won a scholarship to your first choice school, which is RIT, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So if it's September, if you won at the first board, the Army's expectation is that you're going to apply to RIT and get accepted.
Okay.
You have 30 days after you get notified to tell us that you're going to accept the scholarship.
Okay.
So you have 30 days to send in a letter, and we'll accept it. If for some unfortunate reason, Ashley, you don't go to RIT, mm-hmm. whether you fall in love with a different university, mm-hmm. whether you don't get accepted in, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. we will honor that scholarship to the best of our ability to a place that you've been accepted to.
Okay.
So there is an ability for you to maneuver and move that scholarship around. Mm-hmm. That's why it's important for you to advise your applicants or your prospective students to keep the Army ROTC application up to date. If they all of a sudden change their mind, great. Or they don't get accepted in, then they can reorder their scholarship, the schools that they want to go to, and we can get better take care of them.
Great. So on the application itself, they do rank in order.
Yes.
Okay.
And yes, they can list.
I'm sorry. So the students should have a good sense of whether they're going to be admissible to these schools as well. So they kind of need to do their due diligence on that side to make sure, okay, this isn't a far out, chance that I'm going to get in.
Right.
They should have a good sense that this is a good fit school for me, both academically and with the ROTC program that I'm looking at.
Right. And most high school guidance counselors will tell their high school students to have, a reach schools, your dream schools,
Sure.
have some middle schools, and then have some safety schools. You're allowed to have multiple schools on the ROTC scholarship, so you can list all of those schools on there. We're gonna ask you to list some schools that you qualify for in-state tuition, and we're also going to recommend you list some schools that in-state tuition's one. And we're going to ask if you want to go to a historic black college or senior military college or one of those schools.
Okay, great. So the next question's coming in is about major selection. Are students limited to the degree programs that they apply to?
Historically, we do ask and we do care about what degrees a student takes. And if a student decides he's going to be an electrical engineer and wants to switch, he has to ask permission from the Army. The contract and the scholarship is for a degree, for a specific degree from a specific college. So if the student does not fulfill his side of the bargain, it's a contract. He's got his part of the bargain is he's going to graduate with that degree from that school in 4 years. So if he's not going to do that, there's a series of waivers and policies that we can adjust things, but he or she's got to come talk to us. And there is a chance that he or she would lose his scholarship, lose his benefits if he fails to maintain his standards or fails to maintain the type of major and the college that he started with.
So is there an initial list that students can refer to, or
at this point in time we don't limit. We don't care what you major in. We don't say, hey, we're really looking. You can only sign up for math or physics. As much I'm a math and physics guy. As much as I'd like to do that, we don't do that. But what we do is the Army right now is in the process of reviewing what we're looking for in young officers. There is a desire for more science, technology, engineering, math in the officer corps, as well as in society in general. But we at this point in time don't offer scholarships directly tied to majors.
Okay.
I have one, as with everything, there's always one exception. The Army has nurses. And we recruit nurses through ROTC, and we have a special scholarship program for nurses.
Great.
And the expectation is that you will follow, you will get a nursing degree, a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, and you will serve in the active duty as an Army nurse. So we have one small scholarship program for that. The Army needs about 225 to 250 nurses a year, and we split through ROTC and we work that.
Fantastic. Let me just check to see. There were a couple other questions. Where can we, as advisors, where can we send students to find out more information? So if we have a student that has maybe heard word of mouth, maybe some relative has told them, hey, you should really look into an ROTC program, but they don't have any clue what it is, and maybe they don't have a list of schools yet. They're just looking at it as an option to kind of start their college search. What kind of resources can we point them to?
Sure. So, like everybody, we've got a website. So if you go to www.goarmy.com and then search on ROTC or high school ROTC scholarships, you get a list of the schools that have host programs, and then you'll have a list of schools that you can win scholarships to. You just will have to commute or you'll have to work with that professor of military science to figure out how you're going to get that training. So, and then it also describe what or not there's all sorts of information on what is an officer, what do officers do. There's information about the Army, the larger Army writ large, so you'll be able to kind of see how you fit inside the whole Army. And then the second thing I would do is go to the nearest ROTC detachment to you, wherever your high school is. I'm sure there's a college somewhere with relatively close that you can drive for a couple hours, and then you could talk to we have recruiters in each of these ROTC detachments who will be glad to talk to you about ROTC at that college and then ROTC kind of across the nation, and much like what I'm doing right here.
Great. And typically, you would also have recruiters at those larger college fairs that are regional.
Right. Yeah. We generally have recruiters in those college fairs. Yes.
Great. Great. Well, I mean, I've learned a heck of a lot. I'm trying to think if there's other questions that I have personally. But, some of the challenges that I've seen as an admissions counselor, and full disclosure, we do have a fantastic Army ROTC program at RIT where I work. It is part of the scholarship program. We, in addition, will offer our ROTC students room and board with additional RIT scholarships. So we see it as we see a lot of competitive students coming with interest, and usually the challenges are for our office around February, when they're looking for some earlier decisions from us, so that they can make a decision as to where they want to go and where they want to commit to. And, we do our best to try to get those decisions out to those students earlier. So all of this information about the timeline, and, having a better understanding of what that process is, especially if they start so early in the junior year. I think colleges could really learn a lot from the way that you're recruiting students, because you're right, students they're ready in that junior year to start thinking about college, start thinking about how they're going to finance their college, and are anxious to kind of get the ball rolling and figure things out. So
what we find is while we have it open in the February and in the spring semester of their junior year, we don't get a lot. We get some very committed kids who are out competing for early admissions, early decision kids. Yep. So we get those. The bulk of our applications really hit from September through the fall. Just like college admissions, you get the bulk of your inbox gets full about then, and you start working through the list.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot to learn about a student that wants to fill out an application that much earlier. Right. Like you said, that more committed student, it might be a student that, you're willing to kind of take a chance on, or, certainly consider extending scholarship to if they are ready to make that commitment earlier. That's the way we feel about our early decision students. So I'm sure it's similar for you.
Yep.
Absolutely. Great. So I think we've been really comprehensive here. There's, I have a good understanding of what a good fit student is for the Army. So when prospective students do come to visit, I was always curious when they show interest, whether or not I should be pushing them that way, or just sending them over to the detachment, or.
Well, on behalf of the Army, if someone is showing interest in the Army, if you could point them in our direction, that would be great. Yeah. Obviously, when we want to give people information, the key to any kind of admissions process is giving people information about the environment that they're going to be in. Is really the most important thing, and we try there's a number of videos out there that we've got. The Army's got a number of bloggers who are who are cadets or soldiers who are blogging about their experiences. So we're really trying very hard to reach out to the American people and form a connection with them.
And that's all available on the
Right, the
website,
www.goarmy.com is really your one stop on both the larger Army and then ROTC. A lot of ROTC detachments and different, and I highly recommend you if you're interested in like RIT, if you went and Googled RIT ROTC, there you'd go to that school's website, that ROTC detachment's website, and you'd be able to look at the professor of military science, see what he's got, how many cadre he's got. There might be some photos of what they've done and maybe a video of some local training that they've done.
Great. And I think for one last question or one last point to make, for those college admissions professionals who have cadets on their campus, what kind of a value does growing that program or bringing the best cadets to their campus do for a college environment? Why should we be committed to bringing the best students into our ROTC programs on our campus?
Our cadets on campuses tend to graduate on time. They tend not to take 6 years to graduate. They tend to be, on path. We teach leadership. That's all. Our entire curriculum is built upon teaching leadership. Excuse me. So the cadets, I'll go back to my experiences as a professor at University of New Hampshire. I had the student body president as a cadet. He was a UNH student body president. He was president of the student senate, and he was a very I had several fraternity presidents. I had captains of support teams. We tend to attract people who want to be responsible, want to be part of the college environment, and they tend to do very well.
Very good, and they graduate and go into the workforce.
Yeah, they go in the workforce.
It's fantastic. Well, I want to thank you so much.
And they come out with if they graduate and commission, they come out with either a full-time job or a part-time job. So for job placement, for a majority of our cadets going active duty, they're 100% job placement.
Exactly. And that's, absolutely a statistic that colleges and universities across the country are really concerned with. So great points to make. I want to thank you so much for coming on. This is a show that we've had in the works for over 6 months. So it was great to have you on. And if you can, ever think of more information that you'd like to share, we'd be happy to deliver that on Higher Ed Live.
Okay, sure, no problem. I absolutely would love to do this one more time or routinely if you need to.
Great. Well, thanks again. And for those of you who are tuning in, you can see us every week on higheredlive.com. This is Admissions Live, and you can follow us on Twitter with the Admissions Live hashtag. Check out this episode and other episodes on higheredlive.com. Thanks so much.